in our generation, we want to succeed. So like, I had to switch that off and be willing to go to counseling and have somebody else tell me, you know, what they see. Somebody be objective outside of myself,
right?
You know, because you can. Sometimes we make decisions on feelings and not being, you know, yeah, and not being objective, right? Yeah. And so that going to counseling and being around, and that's how being around people that can help you that's gone through stuff, right? So they can have the conversation. And you can, you know, it should be a safe space. That you can say, hey, look, you know, this is what I feel is going on. It's like, oh, I've been through that, man. You just got to go, you know. Everybody's not gonna give 100% all the time. You just gotta know that you're all in it and somebody pick up the slack one day, you know, and just, it's a commitment. It's a commitment, it's a contract. When you get married, you just stay with it. Yeah. That's all I have to say about it.
It's a covenant.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so you do have to die to yourself.
Yes.
And that could be a hard thing. Yes, stay with it. That could be a hard thing to do.
Yes.
But it's definitely worth it in the end, because nobody, I always say, oh, players die alone.
This is the B-side, 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 the marriage. This is the B-side, 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 the marriage.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the B-Side of Marriage podcast. I'm your host, Rashonda, and this is my husband and co-host,
Jason.
And here at the B-Side, we talk about everything related to marriage, the good, the bad, the real,
the A and the B-side.
So, if you're joining us for the first time, welcome. We're so glad to have you. And if you're a return customer, you already know things look a little different, but we're glad that you're back.
Be sure to like us on Facebook at The B-Side of Marriage and on Instagram at B-Side of Marriage.
All right, so like I mentioned earlier, you see things are different because we have another B-Side conversation coming to you guys. Today, we're sitting here with our friends Joe and January Davis. Round of applause. Yeah, so we're just gonna sit back, literally on the couch, and just have a conversation and get to know you guys, okay?
All right.
So I'm not gonna introduce y'all, because I'm gonna let y'all introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm Joe Davis, and it's my beautiful wife, January.
I'm gonna say we moving all around. What's going on? Okay.
Glad to be here so I can get to the B-side.
Oh my gosh.
So, all right, so we always want to we always start off these conversations to get your love story. We know that every love story has two sides.
Yes.
Okay.
It's usually one person's opinion and then what really happened.
And then what the wife said.
Yeah.
Really
So-
happened.
That's the truth.
It's the truth.
So,
yes.
Again, y'all can decide who's going to go first, but tell us your love story.
Well, it was really good because the night we met, it must have been meant for us to meet each other, because the night that we met, I did not want to go out. Okay. I definitely didn't want to go out. I was from an old relationship, and one of my friends said, it was on a weeknight. Let's go
Thursday.
out. Thursday.
Thursday.
Night. Yeah. Let's go out. And I was like, okay, fine. And I really wasn't having fun at the place we were, and I was just kind of sitting in the booth, and this is a place that's kind of like a sports bar that you can kind of dance on the tables and stuff.
Okay.
But
Those some strong
and so this beautiful lady was up there kind of dancing and stuff, and then she needed help down, and I helped her down. I was like, ooh, what's your name? She's like, January. So it just kind of stuck with me, and I was like, okay. And she went off her little way and stuff, and I sat there and just kind of watched her move around and stuff. And when I was about to leave, I was like, hey, can I get your number? And you know, back then, you know, you had to write it down. We didn't have all the other stuff. Like, okay.
So she gave you all the digits, the correct ones?
She gave me the one.
Okay.
You know.
The correct one, right?
The correct one.
Right.
So, you know, you're typical back then dating. I didn't call her the first day, you call her the next day afterwards. And, you know, we kind of met up, and we just kind of hit it off from there. Then a week later, I'm helping her move back to school.
That's true.
That was good.
That's true. And you forgot to add that the first date we went to Target and we went to Marshall's. We went shopping. And so it's been, what, 28 years?
26 years.
6 years later. And so I joked that you knew I was a shopper then because that was the first day.
Yes.
So you knew what you were getting into. So you can't act like there were any
Yes.
surprises there. But yeah, so the first date was us hanging out and him helping me find some car
mats for her car.
Okay.
Car mats. Wow.
Like some mats for the interior.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That we just recently got rid of that car.
Hey, it was a 1997 Honda Civic. It hung around for a long time.
Exactly. They don't make cars like that anymore.
They don't. But yeah, so he helped me move into my apartment a week later. And he was a gentleman. He was very nice and respectful. And it was my mom and my sister were there.
Yeah.
He spent the night, slept on the floor. So yeah, I just was really impressed with his kind heart
Okay.
and no agenda.
Okay.
So how long was your courtship and then engagement into marriage? Like when you guys got married, like.
Because usually, if someone's saying, "Oh, I like him for his kind heart,"
Yeah.
that means you're about to be friend zoned. So how? Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I never thought about that like that. But friends, no, it was just I had been in a relationship where it really wasn't a good relationship.
Okay.
You know, I was getting beyond that, and I was at a stage of life where I said I was just gonna date. Like in my mind, I was just I didn't want to go from one relationship to another. So I was like, I just want to date. I want us to be friends, get to know each other, take our time. And
I was older because I had graduated already, and you know I came back. I was out the country and came back, and so we were kind of dating. And after a while, for me, I told her, it's like, well, we just can't be dating and stuff.
Right.
Either we're gonna be boyfriend and girlfriend, or you know I need to move on because you know my mind is in a different spot.
Okay.
And she was like, okay.
yeah, I was like, well, that was my plan. It was my junior year in college. I just pledged that year, the fall of '97. So I thought it was gonna be my hot girl year, so to speak. And so he sort of derailed that. But it was all meant for the best for sure. But yeah, so that was the reason I was like, I want to be friends, just because I just got out of a relationship. But I also knew that he was a great catch, and I didn't want to
Let him go.
risk losing him either.
So we dated about a year and a half before, about a year and a half before I proposed to her.
Okay.
And it was long distance. So I joke at the time, I was at Texas A&M, and at the time, a lot of my friends was like, is he a student here? Like, he up here all the time? What is he? He had already graduated, but he worked shift work.
So I worked shift work, so it wasn't a big deal for me to get off on a Tuesday and spend a Tuesday, Wednesday night there and just hanging out with her and then come back home. Or even go to work in the morning. Even after that, when I got a regular job, I would just go there because it's an hour, not even an hour away from my job, because I worked on the north side. So it only took me like 45 minutes to just go to work from there. I just leave her house early in the morning and just go to work. So, and we end up, so when we got engaged, she had this plan, we're gonna be engaged for 2 years, and then we're gonna, I graduate, and then we're gonna get married, so.
So what was behind that? What was the 2 years for?
I just wanted to, be in a good financial place because I just graduated college.
Okay.
Or actually, I got home like in June of '99, and I was graduating in August. I was doing an internship that summer.
Okay.
And then I wanted to just make sure that we saved enough money because we were paying for our own wedding. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
just for financial
she
reasons.
said that,
Let's say.
by the
Wait,
time
y'all gonna tell a real story. What happened, Joe?
By the time we get married,
Okay.
you need to save you $10,000, and I'm gonna save me $10,000.
Okay. There it is. Okay.
Yeah. So when we got married, I said, "Where your 10 at?" It ain't never show up. But
Well, I know when you get married now, you know what yours is mine. So therefore,
Right, but really, the truth was, I wanted to make sure he was up on his game. So that was the stipulation I put out there, and Yeah.
Yeah.
And he did. He probably, I had mine. I just didn't. It went to the wedding stuff.
I don't remember that. But
Yeah, it did. It went to the wedding
that's
stuff.
the B-side. I don't.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We keep it real in this street.
We are
Okay?
keeping it real.
Yeah.
So, Joe, when did you know that January was the one?
It's funny. It's just a little thing. Because, you could tell, like, when somebody's been in a relationship and they kind of try to fill you out and, I'm going to have my plate, you're going to have your plate. We go dating. I mean, it was just small stuff. So when it was like, no, can we just split something? That's when I can tell she can care about what I'm spending and that she cared that, we share it together. That's the little things, the little steps. And I said, okay, yeah, she cares about it. It's not just about if I'm taking her out, spending money on her and stuff. And that's when I kind of figured she was into me. And then she doesn't cook often, so and I'm just being real. But she started cooking for me and stuff like that. Like, okay, yeah, you're trying to be sweet and stuff. So that's when I knew that we were into each other and being with her mom and being around the family. And when I'm interjecting in her family like that, especially with her mom and her little sister, that's why I know she really cared.
Gotcha.
Because I think she wouldn't just bring anybody around, especially my mother-in-law. Of course, she gonna love you, and if she doesn't love you, you'll know.
You'll know.
You know.
Okay.
She didn't like the ex-boyfriend.
So yeah.
And he knew it. But yeah, you're right about that about her, for sure.
Yeah, so that's when I knew, and she wanted to always spend time with me. And instead of, like you said, she pledged, and instead of just wanting to go hop around and do the other stuff, she wanted to come be with me. So it's like, okay, we good.
Okay.
That's why I
So
decided.
Jerry, when did you know he was the one?
I think looking at his quality of his character early on I saw glimpses of, just who he was as a person. But I think ultimately, just over time, that he was consistent with, I was his priority.
Okay.
I felt like just the amount of time he invested in, like I said, we were long distance, so just the amount of time he invested in making sure we saw each other, making sure that back in the day there was no cell phones.
My phone bill, I wouldn't let her pay for anything, so she'd call me collect. So that bill was
that
pretty.
That is a commitment
That's
right
a commitment.
there.
Right.
That bill was pretty high.
Yeah.
For sure. And it was little things he did, like, he was very just thoughtful and considerate with my littles. I have a sister that's 11 years younger than me, so at the time I think she was like 6. He would
8.
He wouldn't bring her with us on dates sometimes, and it was really, really thoughtful, really, really considerate. My mom and my parents moved shortly after I graduated. He helped them relocate, helped them, as far as like physically moving stuff, putting stuff on the truck, and he was just a good guy. He was just a good guy. So I knew early on that his character and the qualities of his personality, he was a gentle spirit. I learned eventually that there's another side to him, but
that's
early on I didn't see that side.
And for y'all to know, she's talking about football, so that's a different thing. You have
So
to
his
crazy.
friends,
She said the gentle side is and the other
it
side.
is. His
Like,
friends call him
Gentle
Killer.
giant, but-
So when somebody says, "Oh, hey, Killer," I was like,
Wait,
and
hold on.
somebody just told a story about this. Literally went to graduation. One of your friend's son's graduation 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
And one of the guys there told a story how when we first met, he was talking to Joe like, "Hey, Killer," and they was dabbing each other up. And I turned around and I was like, "Who was he? Who was he talking to? Why did he call you that?"
Yeah.
And so, I didn't see that side. I didn't see that side at all.
Okay.
I've since seen that side. And in particular, I'm thinking about when we was on vacation in Mexico.
Because I'm protecting my wife, and I will always protect my wife.
Okay.
So, that's another
FSA.
story.
Yeah, right.
This one right here too.
He almost got into it with some of the federales. I call it the cartel in Mexico. Listen to a timeshare presentation.
Oh no.
The man snatched the paper out of my hand and Joe went ballistic. And my parents were there and I was like, "Oh my God, you cannot get us like we gonna get arrested in Mexico. And so, yeah. But I just feel like his heart was, he's just a good natured person. He's a friend's friend. Like, he's a guy's friend in the sense that they're really close knit, and if you become his friend, you're like family to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes closer than, some of his friends are definitely.
So I don't have friends. Either you're my family or you're associate. So it's just one or the other for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question then is, how did the proposal happen? Like, what did you do for the proposal?
Right, because we know January,
Yes.
and we know.
So yeah, that's
she's
gonna
a certain standard.
That's gonna kill you because it was so simple. It wasn't even,
really?
It wasn't anything. I just felt like, I would always go up there.
Yeah.
I just planned. I went there, picked out the ring. I didn't have her pick it out or anything like that, so I got what I wanted to get. Probably could have done it a lot better, but I felt like it was more about us being together than the ring or anything else. And so I just surprised her in the morning. I had nothing special. She woke up about to go to class. It's like, got on my knee and said, but I had to ask her mom beforehand. So her mom already knew that I was gonna propose. She didn't know all this, but I asked her mom for a hand in marriage. So yeah, like I said, it wasn't nothing elaborate or anything like that. So that's why I said, yeah,
it was not. He had come that morning. I was on my way to class, and he knocked on the door that morning, and I was still getting situated, getting my backpack together and stuff, and he got on a knee and proposed in my room. Yeah. So I was like, are you serious right now? Like, I gotta go to class. Like, you sure you want to do this right now?
yeah.
But that was.
And so you still went to class?
I still
She went to class. And
Did you go to class with me?
No, you told me to stay there and just watch TV and whatever, and then she was gonna come back. So
yeah, I had to let it sink in, like, because we had been dating about a year and a half, almost 2 years, but a little bit over a year and a half, and so I wasn't expecting it.
Okay,
I was
that
not.
was my
Like,
question,
no,
yeah.
I didn't. I joked that he tried to take me off the market before I got back to Houston. That's me and some of my live sisters joke. But yeah, because literally he proposed in April, and I was coming home in May. In May.
So y'all think she likes surprises and stuff? She doesn't. So that's the thing I already knew. Okay. Like, she's not big into all that stuff. I can surprise her with it. She's like, okay, whatever. I mean, she appreciative, but it's not like she really. Even like birthdays I've had, planned birthdays, or I'll bring her something and she'd be like, okay, thank you,
Yeah, that's not my love language.
That's just not it. So that's why it wasn't a big production for me.
Gotcha.
I don't waste my time with all the theatrics.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just like, okay, just meat to the bone right here. There you go.
So when did it sink in then? Because you said when did it like sink in and like, he just proposed? Like,
it probably took a little bit. Like,
So did you wear the ring to class?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. A&M is multicultural, so it wasn't a lot of us in the class. But yeah, I think once some of my friends started seeing it, like, oh my God, like, what you?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, he proposed, and we gonna get married. They were surprised. Not that it was soon, but it was just, when you think about it, I was 21.
So yeah.
21? That's a bit young. It's a bit young. And in hindsight, I never was one to have the fairy tale of, I'm gonna get married and have kids, and that was never my thought.
Yeah.
I was more of a career focused person, and I just never thought about getting married and having children, or having a family in that area. So yeah, it was a surprise, but I knew he was the only person that I wanted to spend my life with.
So, but to tell you that, she came back and then the planning January came out.
Okay. Yeah. I was like, where's she at?
Yeah, that came in. I was like, okay, that's when it's gonna be 2 years. We're gonna do this and this. Like, okay. I'm just getting this one step. We'll get to the next one. We'll figure out the rest as we go. Yeah. So it was sweet though. It was sweet.
Yeah. So we're a lot alike. Meaning, I was not planning on going and getting married, and also too, I went to Texas A&M, and that is not the norm
Right.
for certain females who went to A&M.
Right.
So I guess how did you navigate that? Now, like, okay, you didn't think you were going to be married, but now here you are, about to be somebody's wife, and could potentially be somebody's mom. Like, that's basically you're opening up your whole world to something that you didn't think that's where you were, it was gonna go.
That's a great question. I think I've always been an old soul, and so interestingly enough, one of his friends, they were college friends. I knew him in high school.
Okay.
And he says to this day, January, you weren't a regular high school student. We went to Bel Air High School. He's like, you came to school with heels and a backpack. I mean, a purse. I didn't carry a backpack. And so that's his joke. And it's accurate. Like, I've just always been an old soul, and I've always dated older guys. But I just didn't see the end, or I didn't think about long term per se. I just thought about, I'm gonna go to college, I want to have a good career, make good money, and I didn't think about the other the other areas of life. But I think when you don't necessarily see all of those things for yourself, you don't and I think even if you do see it, you make mistakes.
Oh yeah.
Along the way. But again, I don't think I would do it differently, in the sense that when you do get married that young, it sort of leaves less room for other life's interactions to take place, because you sort of learn together.
Right.
Yeah.
You learn together, you make mistakes together, you have successes together all at the same time. I see people get married later in life. I have friends that have gotten married later in life, and I feel like it makes it, you're more guarded with, you don't want to put your finances together, because you're like,
right.
I done already got
exactly
my money.
right, yes.
Whereas we were kids together. Like, I was 21, he was 24, 25 when we got married. So it's like,
No, it was 27, 23 when we got married.
oh, we got married, right? Oh, yeah, because I was out of college by then. But so we like grew together.
Yeah.
We were able to. So the 10,000 was for me, it was symbolic of, can we be disciplined to bring to make sure we have what we need to have to get ourselves on a good footing.
Yeah.
I joke
Which is
that
not the norm.
Yeah.
it's not, that goes back to the old song.
Exactly right.
And so I joke that, we had to make sure credit was right, and that's some of those things are things that most 23-year-olds aren't thinking about.
No.
Not at
And
all.
so that side of my brain, was there, and it was developed. So it wasn't as difficult to be in a marriage that young, and to slow down in a lot of ways. But I think on the other side of that, I didn't necessarily have all the equipment I needed. And so therefore we went to a lot of marriage ministry and did counseling.
And learning to, over the years, like you said, die to yourself. That's the thing. You try to be such an individual and have your own goals that young, because she has goals.
Right.
Yeah.
And, we didn't really talk about those goals when I'm already graduated. I'm working, like real job. She's about to graduate, and then thinking about what she wants to do. I didn't ask, do you want to go to grad school, all this other stuff, and when you don't do that, and then they decide to go here or say, I want to change that. I mean, people don't know how to deal with change sometimes.
Oh, yes.
Pivot.
And those pivots, you're like, oh, okay. And, it's just things you learn. And like you said, you grow. And, you don't want to change a lot of things that happen, because we grew together and we learned to bend to each other, right? It's like compromise and whatnot. And we see people that's older that get together and they don't compromise. It's funny to see.
Yeah.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
That is, anyways, we talked about that earlier.
I know.
Okay, so how long y'all been married?
22 years.
Okay.
22.
So, and y'all say y'all grew, basically in marriage, y'all grew up together.
Yes.
So talk to us about that first, real challenge that y'all experienced. So y'all been married 22 years. So tell us about that first challenge that y'all had as a young couple in love.
I think when you don't talk about your agenda, right? What you're gonna do, and looking back on it, like even first getting in our first home,
Okay.
you know, I wanted to spend time, and she wanted to decorate. So to decorate and find all the stuff that you need to get takes a lot of time. So you go to work, come back, and you know, she was going to the stores, and I was like, hey, here I am right here, you know. And I think we talked about it, like in her mind, like, oh, we married now, you good over there. I got my agenda, but you didn't just say, you know, when you don't verbalize this is what I'm doing, you just kind of doing it.
Yeah.
And you look back on it, it's like, oh, if you just kind of said that, maybe if you say, take me with you to go do that when you were taking your friend or your mom to go do it, then that's how, you know, you feel kind of separated at the time doing that. And then through that whole process, you know, she started working more and work retail. So it's like, okay, you're not at home, we newly married, and I'm at home by myself.
Yeah.
Right, I ain't signing for this.
Yeah, so it's like,
I'm just saying.
so it's like, okay, I'm at home by myself, and I had to like, hey, then that was probably the first challenge. That's just not knowing. You expect to be with somebody all the time, and you're not with them all the time because you know you're not on the same wavelength as this is what I'm doing, and this is the reason why I'm doing it. I'm not understanding it because she's real focused. Like if she got an agenda, what she gonna do is gonna get done. Like now we share the agenda. Now like we know, but then it wasn't sharing because you were individuals when you first got married, so you still didn't realize I gotta talk about this agenda, and we need to be on the same page, and that's the things we weren't on the same page for.
So, cause that's something we talked about. It's like when you first get married, what couples don't really understand is that it's like you're merging on the same highway, and it's one lane. Y'all have to be able to merge y'all things together.
And
if
not
not,
collide.
exactly. So that's kind of what you guys was doing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then: how did you guys get through that? Like, what did y'all do to actually get through that? Because that seemed that it to be something big, but how did y'all work through that?
It's just time, actually, and then like you said, going to marriage ministries and counseling and stuff like that to realize, you know, because I had an example of my grandparents being together, and that's my example of marriage, and I'm seeing what they're doing. Oh, they're just together, whether they just sit up in the morning drinking coffee, just hanging around, or get up going fishing. We all going fishing together and stuff like that, and to do two separate things. So we had to talk about this. Like, this is what I think marriage is. This is what we need to do. So we never even talked about what was your idea of marriage. What does that look like?
Okay.
You know, just having the conversations. Like, we just expect expectations. And not talking about. So unmet expectations, you get frustrated. So, you know, that's what you need to do is talking about from the jump. And I don't think people do that. You date. And sometimes you put on your acting or your best foot, not acting, your best foot forward all the time. And you don't want to have the uncomfortable conversations. And, you know, but if you're going to be with this person, you should have that uncomfortable conversation because things going to get uncomfortable. It's not going to be rosy all the time. Now, you get over the hump, like our uncomfortable conversation now, you know, I'd be like, okay, whatever. We don't argue about that type of stuff because you've done all that. And, you know, at the end of the day, I said, it's just me and you. Nobody else around here, even when the little ones leave or whatever, it's just going to be me and you. No mama, no daddy, nobody else. So, but it took me time to even realize that too. So.
No, we talk about that all the time because the way we communicate now is completely different than what we did when we first started. Like, completely different.
And being again, we come from two different states, so communication is really different of how I communicate versus how she communicates. So we had to learn, like we really had to learn how to talk to one another in a way that we both can understand. So.
And then even for me, I was like January, like career, like I wasn't gonna get married. I had saw myself, I was gonna be in the C-suite. I was gonna be in heels in a with the laptop, like computer back. Like I saw me always being in corporate America and being independent and doing whatever I wanted to do whenever I wanted to do it. So then you take that personality and you put it in a marriage where now, like Joe said, you have to like be held accountable. Like you gotta like share, like, oh, I'm going here. Like not necessarily like getting permission, but also like being able to bring them into your world, right? How did you do that? Because it's not easy.
It's not easy, and I miserably failed at that. I did.
You're not alone. I did too.
I miserably failed at that. And I say that because I grew up with my mom, and Saturdays were spent shopping, window shopping. Maybe she would go to the Galleria, I'd go ice skating, but it was always spent at a store.
Yeah.
And so, or us just going to visit family. We weren't home on the weekend.
On the weekends, okay.
And so that's what I did once I got married. I just sort of still did that. Like, I was like, hey, Mom, we would go work out Saturday mornings, and then we'd spend the entire day. Like, we would leave about, maybe the class started at 9, then step up at 9. We'd get together by 8:30. And I wouldn't come home sometime till like 7 p.m.
Oh, that is all day.
It was all day. And some people could think like, what you do? But I was with my mom. I was with my friend. Like I was with either girlfriends and mom or mom. Like, but unfortunately, I think my stepdad, he is a musician by trade. And so he was gone a lot. Okay. And so my mom, unfortunately, sort of focused on her kids more than she should have. And so when Dad was gone, we were her activity. Yeah. Okay. You know, old school don't have friends. So it's not like she was able to split up time with friends. And so I was her friend, her daughter, her, you know, all of the things. And when I got married, I sort of brought my mom to my marriage. And that wasn't really healthy to do. And it wasn't that it was, you know, not like I was having an affair or doing anything like that, but it's like sometimes when you're not focused on your marriage, that could be an affair, whether it's, you know, when you're not focused, where your focus should be. And so I just think I did it in excess more than I should, and I should have, you know, did less of that and brought him more into, you know, collided the world, so to speak, versus just still being like married but single. Yeah. Because I was still just sort of doing what single in the sense that I was just living life the way I did when I was single. I was shopping and hey, where we having lunch at? And
So did you like put up, I guess, have a conversation with your mom and put barriers, like boundaries, so
I'm gonna say, that
can get you more closer to Joe rather than spending all that time with your mom? Like what was the process? Like how did you kind of turn that around?
Or did Joe say, that's enough. That's enough of this. I'm tired of it.
Pretty much. You know, things weren't going well in the marriage. And we'd argue, and it was explosive arguments. And it was arguments where it was volatile, not physical abuse or anything, but just like he would want to leave. And I'm like, okay, you mad? Because, like, we should be able to disagree without you being, but I think that's the sometimes unhealthy habits that you bring into either from what you see, you know, from your own situation at growing up in. And so we had to learn to have, it's okay to disagree and it not be volatile.
And I think too, for myself, I let stuff build up because I normally just go with the flow and not express how I was feeling. And over time, that's why it gets to the point of the blow-ups and stuff like that, which you say you're saying it and probably we're not listening. It's a little bit of both. So you say it and the person's really not taking you seriously because they don't think it's that serious. Yeah. And then on top of that, then you say it over time, you stop saying it, and then when you get to the point that you're really frustrated about it, then you blow up about it. And now we just, if I feel something, I say it right then and there and don't let it fester and say it. And, you know, we can agree to disagree, and I'll just say, hey, yeah, I don't agree with you, and I don't mean to hurt your feelings. This is what I see. And we kind of just leave it at that. Even when she says, like, okay, fine, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And we don't hold it over each other. We just say it.
Oh, that's good.
You know,
That's good. No, that's really good.
That's good.
because you're not gonna see it. There's nobody in the world that's gonna perfectly agree with you on 100% of everything.
Correct.
You can't. There's just two different individuals. You know, like if we can't agree sometimes on what we want to eat at night. So
Oh, we don't need to go there.
So like,
We don't need
here,
to bring
so
that in.
this is like kind of another analogy. So like, if y'all said, okay, I'm about to go, we about to go travel. You pack your bag different than he packs his bag, right?
Oh, absolutely.
absolutely.
But that's the same thing in marriage, because the simple thing is we've learned some things from us growing up, so we're gonna pack our bag differently because it's how we're used to doing it.
Exactly.
You know, we're never gonna do it the same. Like I said, we've been together, you know, almost 17 years now. We don't pack. I pack mine differently than her, and we always do. So
Yes, I let you do you. I do me, but
Yeah.
we're going to the same destination.
going to the same
and
destination.
we're both gonna
I can
be
have
happy.
shorts, flip flops, and that's all I need. She has the whole closet, so
Yeah.
you know, I understand. I understand.
And you still forget stuff, even in the midst of how you one packs versus another.
Yeah.
You still might need to pick up something while you're there.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just over time, and we, you know, just I mean, failing at stuff doesn't. You learn from, like, so you don't take all failures as something bad. You just take it as something that you learn from, and you, like I said, you don't harbor any ill will, and you just learn and continue to learn. And it took us time. It's just time. You know, you can't run from disagreements. That's why y'all one. If I think a lot of days now, people are just make it so easy just to leave.
Yeah.
Like, I mean.
That's good.
You're not this next relationship. You're gonna have a disagreement, so don't keep thinking it's gonna be better. It's like it's a decision. Like it's a decision. You was with that person. You can't run every time you have a disagreement because nobody's gonna agree with you all the time.
Right.
You know, and sometimes people take them longer to learn.
Yeah.
So, and we learn it. So like I said, I mean, I told her, you ain't going nowhere. You ain't never going nowhere.
Listen, I told Jay that same. Listen, you go, where we going? Because
Right,
I'm
we
packing
going
bags.
together.
Where we going?
We
Yeah.
go together.
Because we not doing this. But you have, Joe, you mentioned several times about being involved with like marriage ministry and doing counseling. That can be kind of taboo in the Black community.
It can, because I was the first one to be like, hey, I don't need to go talk to nobody about what's going on with us, you know, and you know, it was hard to do because I didn't grow up seeing that. So they argued or whatever, and mom, dad, and if it failed, it just failed. But you know, being in our generation, we want to succeed. So like, I had to switch that off and be willing to go to counseling and have somebody else tell me, you know, what they see. Somebody to be objective outside of myself.
Right.
You know, because you can. Sometimes we make decisions on feelings and not being, you know, and not being objective, right? And so that going to counseling and being around, and that's how being around people that can help you that's gone through stuff, right? So they can have the conversation. And you can, you know, it should be a safe space that you can say, hey, look, you know, this is what I feel is going on. It's like, oh, I've been through that, man. You just got to go, you know. Everybody's not gonna give 100% all the time. You just gotta know that you're all in it. And somebody pick up the slack one day, you know, and just, it's a commitment. It's a commitment, it's a contract. When you get married, you just stay with it. Yeah. That's all I have to say about
It's a
that.
covenant.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so you do have to die to yourself.
Yes.
And that could
Daily.
be a hard stay with. And that could be a hard thing to do.
Yes.
But it's definitely worth it in the end. Because I always say, oh, players die alone. And they do. Because it's not cute when you like
It's not.
80 years old and you know, you at the nursing home and you by yourself. That's just not, you know.
Yeah, I'm with
The
you.
kids don't want to fool with you. You don't have a wife or a spouse or husband anymore. So I think it's important to invest in home. Like that should be your first ministry. That should be, at the end of the day, I mean, friends are great and they're necessary. but I think it's important to make sure you have godly friends around.
Yes.
Yes.
Friend, and I've always, that's the old soul of me. Like, I've always just been very much like, okay, I don't do anything haphazardly for the most part. Okay. I usually make very sober decisions, and I know that at the end of the day, everybody, you know, people are going to hurt you.
Yes.
Your spouse is going to hurt you. You just got to decide, is this person worth hurting for? That's and so when you ask me, how did I know he was the one, I felt like the traits in his personality, with those characteristics, I knew he was worth any hurt that I may experience in life with him.
Look at you.
Yeah, and that hasn't hadn't led me wrong at all.
Making them deposits.
Even the worst days have been. I'm like, you know, when you think of everybody got their Rolodex, you're like, would I have rather gone through? You know, you pick your battles, and I think at the end of the day, you realize you invest in home. You invest in the person that you decide to be with, and you make sure you have a circle of course, putting God first, but making sure your safety net of good friendships, good family, because we can't pick our family, but we can pick the ones we're around.
Yes, you can.
And so I think that's important, to make sure you have a team of people that's rooting for your marriage, that's rooting for your family to succeed, and is trying to pour into your family and not deplete it.
Okay. No, that's good. And we say that all the time, because it's like, marriage is work. Yeah. But everything is work, right? Like, you have a job, you work.
You make a choice every day.
You make a choice every day to go and put in the effort. Yeah. And you need to do that with your marriage as well. And then I know we met through marriage ministry. And it's so important that you're picking wise, godly people who are going to push you guys back together if there's any disagreement, instead of like, yeah, girl, he ain't no good, go on, leave him. Like, you don't need that. You need someone who be like, no, I understand, you hurt right now, but because I really do feel like, I don't think your spouse intentionally wants to hurt you or cause any hurt.
Yep, that's correct.
And so give them just like you give everybody else the benefit of the doubt, you should give the most benefit of the doubt to your spouse.
Absolutely, you got to give them grace.
Exactly, because they're also dealing with you, and you need grace. It's like, it's a two-way street.
So hard to deal with that one.
We all have our thing. That's what I'm saying. We all have our thing. So you have to give grace because you want to receive grace.
Yeah, for sure.
Too.
And the funny thing is, you say that, like, once you do that, like, the stuff that probably would have bothered me back in the day don't bother me at all.
Right.
Like, yeah, my wife could be a supervisor.
Yes.
Yeah, supervisor. And, you know, now I'll be like, well, whatever, okay, you know, I don't take it personal or whatever. You're just talking to me. And back then I was like, you can't tell me what to do. You tell me about my shoes in the floor, your stuff over there, and I'll be like, okay, they gonna sit there till I get them.
When I pulled in this afternoon for work, he worked from home today, and I'm like, okay, I pulled the trash out this morning. There's nobody. Alana left, and she was, of course, Summer's out, so she's home. And I'm like, they didn't pull the trash in. I said, so, and he met me outside actually, and so I'm pulling the trash, and I said, so I gotta go to work, bring home the bacon and fry it up in the pan and pull out the trash.
I said, like, yes, you superwoman. You superwoman.
I was like, so it did, you know, and not that I was seriously mad, but it did disarm, you know, any like, dang, they could at least pull this trash out. I thought I didn't been outside. When he made that statement, it was like, it disarmed any like attitude I could have even remotely had. So you gotta have a good time.
You do. No. Man, marriage is fun. It can be.
It can be.
Because I know, it's funny that y'all bring that up, because I know for Jay, especially when I was traveling, it was so hard for me to switch it. So I would come home in work mode, and I would be talking to him as though he's a part of my team, and he'd be like, listen, I'm your husband, so I'm gonna give you a minute, get it together, and then we're gonna try this again. Because yeah, you just be in the mode of like getting things done and like he was like, don't dictate what I'm. No.
Yeah.
Ask me if I'm willing to do this, and then if I say yes, leave it alone.
Yeah.
You have to trust that I'm gonna get it done. It might not be exactly how you want it, but it's gonna get done.
Yeah.
And that's why I had to release a lot of control there. Cause
Control. That's the word.
yeah.
She knows that, and she doesn't use it. Like if she doesn't tell me to do it, and I'll kind of mention it, it'll probably get done. But when you barking the order, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna get to it when I get to it. I mean, this is probably not right, but if I feel like I've come home from work just like you,
Right.
I don't feel like doing that right now. I didn't deal with the day. I'm just let me unwind for a second.
Right.
Yeah.
Unwind for a second. That's my thing with us. Give me a second when you get home.
Yeah.
When we both get home. Like sometimes now we carpool, so it's like you hop in the car, you gotta go. And we get to the house, it's like, okay, I'm in the house, give me a second. I've been talking to you ever since we got in the car. Like, just give me a little bit.
Yeah.
Then we'll figure something else out. But it's good though. And I enjoy carpooling with her, so yeah.
Yeah, we weren't sure if we were gonna survive COVID when we were quarantined together, because that was a lot of togetherness. But it actually worked.
Yeah.
We were very surprised how well it worked.
Oh yeah.
And then we even joked, so I recently just started working outside of the house. And he's like, man, I ain't got my work wife anymore. I can't
Like
get
literally, this is my desk, and I turn around my work wife right there. Now I do like this. I'm like,
Yeah.
cause ain't nobody there. Empty chair. I'm like, come on, man.
Right, 'cause we used to always joke, because he'll come over and he'll try to give me a hug or something. I was like, what's HR? What's
Yeah,
HR? I just got to report, whatever.
I try to I feel up, but she's like, HR. I'm like, ain't no HR in here.
Right. It's my house.
But yeah, but this is like, so that's why we really do, we like, hanging out with you guys, because y'all like to be together. A lot of people don't like to be with their spouses.
Yeah,
And
it's
y'all
funny.
like to have a good time.
We're together like all the time, and it's funny you said that during COVID, because we know people that didn't make it
Right.
from COVID,
Yes.
and I worked, my desk was right upstairs, and she would be down here. Hey babe, how's it going? We talk back forth. Yeah, I mean, I was a little spoiled because she would bring me breakfast, lunch, and then I was working. I was like, ooh, I like this. Yeah. So I don't know, baby. It's just we love being we try to still date. Like I had to learn, like
good.
just date. We're gonna go somewhere, whether we just go out to eat, go somewhere, and come back. I try to. It's balancing time too, because even with our daughter, but we go to everything together for her. So it's like, we're gonna be all day. We at this volleyball tournament, but we sitting here together. We here together.
Yeah.
And you say that, but I see other parents that both of them aren't there all the time. You see one, and the other one's not there. It's like, okay, is this not the norm?
It's not.
Right? It's not the norm. So, yeah.
You're right. It's not always the norm.
It's not.
It's not. I'm gonna say it's not. Because if Jay's coaching and I'm there, they're like, but he's the coach, so he has to be there. So why are you coming? Because those are my kids. That's my husband. Like, of course I'm gonna be here.
Yeah.
But it's not the norm. It's like if one parent is there, that's good enough.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Right. And you have to be careful, because sometimes when people plant those seeds like that, and I've dealt with that in friendships. They're like, maybe somebody else's household don't run the same as yours, and that's okay.
And it's
I'm
okay.
like, I respect what you and your, what you and your spouse do, how y'all do it. If y'all decide to not be together all the time, that's your choice. But me and my house, we gonna serve the Lord, and we gonna we gonna do it how we choose to. And so, so even when you asked about my mom, how did that shift? I just think at the end of the day, once I realized the importance of making sure I nurture home and water the grass at home, she's a fan. one of his biggest fans. So she, you know, she understood, but I think it also made her look at things differently within our own marriage. Like, oh, like, you know, I should be spending more time, even though his work schedule is different. I should be spending more time with my husband.
And she would ask me, like, back then she wouldn't ask. So it was like, oh, Mom's here, what we about to do? Now it's like, oh, do you mind if Mom go here and there? And, you know, it's up to me to be like, oh, yeah. And then a lot of times it's not even that. So it's got to be real specific that she would ask Mom. It's not everything. Yeah. And at first it felt like everything. Okay. So now it's really selective. And, of course, if our daughter is having a game, I'm not going to stop her from doing that. Yeah. Now, we traveling out, you know, out of town for a game, like, that's gonna look different. Like, yeah. But, you know, that's how we deal with it. So.
So we appreciate you guys just taking the time to talk with us. But before we wrap everything up, I guess, what would be some advice that you would give to either a young couple or a couple who's considering getting married?
Like I tell anybody, is communication. So the first thing you have, your expectations of marriage. You need to line that out and be able to agree on it. If you can't agree on certain things, like some people are even talking about if they want kids and stuff. Right. Like if one person wants a kid and the other one doesn't, well, that's not gonna work. So if you don't talk about those little things beforehand, then you're gonna be in trouble. So you gotta have a lot of communication when you're gonna get married. You should have that beforehand. You got to know, we say it, like you said, die to yourself. I mean, you got to make sure you put the other person, that's on both sides, the other person's feelings before yours. If you can do that, that should take care of itself. But, you know, people don't do that. Naturally, when you've been an individual, you're going to think, well, oh, how I feel, or how that's going to affect me. Hey, you know, I'm not worried about you. I worry about my feelings first, or I want to point the finger, and that's not a good trait to have when you're trying to be one, because you're all together. So, what about you?
I think it's important to make sure you have that you pray together and that you have a good God-focused marriage, in the sense that whether you're going to church in person or you're, you know, watching. I'm watching TD Jakes. I'm a TD Jakes fan. Watching TD Jakes online. I mean, or on you know, on TV. But just making sure you're learning about what the appropriate steps to take and the appropriate support to have in marriage. I think that's really, really important. And you're not going to always be doing the same things at the same times. So, you know, some people may pray more than others, or some people may worship differently than others, but making sure that you put that time in.
And being a married couple, you, like you said, you have to get with like-minded people. And, you know, there's things I had to learn even afterwards. Like, if you're married and you still try to hang with your single friends, that's just not gonna work. I mean, I know it's hard to get out of that mode because you've been with them or you've been friends a lot, because I had a whole bunch of friends, until like all my friends got settled in to their marriages. Now we all like-minded, but during earlier times we weren't, because everybody's doing their different things. So you need to start associating. I know it's hard, but you have to start getting with people that are in your same situation. Yeah. So, so you don't have any other influences, not just simple selfishness influences, because you can say, hey man, let's go play basketball. Well, no, I need to go hang out with my wife. We got to go here. It's just simple things that can affect you when that person doesn't have to be home, and to anybody else, that you got to understand that. So I should say, get with people that are in your same situation, meaning married and, you know, trying to build their marriage and not be single. So.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Oh, that's good. Everything was good. We appreciate y'all sitting. Actually, allowing us to sit with you in your home.
Exactly.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Y'all's ministry has been a blessing to many couples, so y'all keep doing what y'all doing.
Thank you.
Appreciate
that's
it.
important, because a lot of young folks don't get to see what, you know, people put up a facade and want to make sure their marriage look a certain way, and I think it's important to realize that's not reality. And if we're gonna be in the trenches, you need to have good support and make sure you equipping yourself with the right knowledge and information.
Yeah, because you see one of the finished products. It took some time to get here. Like, it's work. Anybody tell you any different, they're lying to you.
Right.
Marriage is work, and you have to constantly work on it. So that's my advice: work on it daily.
Like we like something we constantly say is marriage is a journey, you know, and in that journey you're gonna have pitfalls. You're gonna have you have to have places where you might have to get stuck. You have to come together and figure out how we're gonna get through this. You get through it and you continue on your journey. It doesn't stop. It may be a pause for a second, but then you guys work through it and continue to move on that journey, and that's what marriage is. You know, you work through all those things that try to come against you guys, but then you continue to move forward. So
absolutely
agreed. That's well said.
Thank you, babe.
All right, y'all. Well, it's been another great episode, a great B-side conversation.
Like always, follow us, subscribe. Definitely share this with somebody.
Yeah, share.
I know there's a lot of nuggets in this episode that we got from Joe in January that you guys, that if you share it with your friends, I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna take heed to it and be like, you know what?
Yes.
I need to listen to that and do a little bit more. So, was there anything else?
No, that's it.
Well, until next week.
Because remember, the real work begins after you say I do.
Peace.